Luffy grabs the Den Den Mushi from Usopp's hands and starts talking to the Gorosei. He introduces himself to be Monkey D. Luffy, the future Pirate King, while other Straw Hats refrain him from doing so, but he doesn't stop. Luffy mentions that they are closely allied with Dr. Vegapunk, and if they care about York's safety, then it is better they take quick action and remove the fleet from around the shore. In the background, we can hear voices of York crying out for help. Kizaru and the other Marine soldiers are eavesdropping on their conversation. The Marine soldiers call them evil that they can go on this level. Not only these, but Morgan, Vivi, and Wapol are also eavesdropping on their conversation from the World Economic Journal headquarters. The Gorosei finally speak up. One of them exclaims that you are Straw Hat Luffy, right? He then goes on to ask him about the number of people who are alive with him on the labor phase right now. Luffy, being Luffy, start counting out the numbers, but is stopped by Robin. The call is then finally disconnected. One of the Gorosei, St. Mars, has recognized that the voice was of Robin. Robin tells Luffy that talking to the Gorosei will only reveal their secrets, and it is important to keep information about from them as much possible. Luffy agrees to her, and then asks that will doing this force them to withdraw their fleet? Usopp exclaims that they will never do that, and he must come out in reality and see that Marines are extremely powerful. Saint Saturn, who is not on Mary Joieuse with the other 4 elders, is basically hanging out on a ship around the island. Though he is not there, but he has listened to the whole conversation. From this, he concluded 3 important things that they need to protect at any cost. First, they need to ensure physical safety of York. Second, they need to protect Punk Records, which constitutes Vegapunk's brain, and finally the power plant needed to produce the Mother Flame. They can bear to lose everything else, except for these 3 things. Doberman, who is also at the ship with Saturn, tells him that Rob Lucci and his team are also there on the island, along with other Cypher Pol agents. Saturn replies that he is taking into consideration the worst of the worst scenario that could happen, as it is important to prioritize what is important. Doberman acknowledges with him. Saturn calls humans no different from insects. Even if their number reduces, they will multiply again. At Punk Records, York, who is under captivation of the Straw Hat Pirates, is crying and bawling her eyes out. She tells them that now they know that she made a deal with the Gorosei, and if they dare to hurt her, the 5 elders will while out this island entirely, just like what they did to Ohara. Hearing to her continuous crying, Nami, frustrated, hits her with her climb attack on her head, and she is made unconscious. Before getting unconscious, she warns Nami that she will have to pay for this, and the 5 elders will not leave her. But Nami fearlessly tells her to complain even more to the Gorosei, and she doesn't even care about that. Robin tells Nami to calm down. Chopper, who is taking care of the injured Robin, asks him if her wounds are better now. She is basically sitting on a chair in the background with Chopper caring for her because she is the most injured Straw Hat pirate, and it is also the reason why she couldn't be seen in the previous episode. Robin exclaims that she is feeling much better, and this is all because of his care. Kaku also seems injured in the background. What happened the previous day between the fight of Luffy, Zoro, Lucci, Kaku with the Seraphims is still a mystery. Vegapunk Atlas is looking fine and is working on a terminal, while they are worried for Pythagoras, Shaka, and Edison. They come to know that Edison is still alive. Usopp requests Lilith to calm down for a bit because he is trying to contact someone, but Lilith is bawling over the status of Vegapunk satellites. 4 are injured and 2 are dead. However, is this really true that Shaka and Pythagoras are dead? We then see Kaku, who asks Lucci that what is he whispering about. Lucci exclaims that it is just nothing, and he is randomly talking to himself. Usopp finally connects the call and asks that if everything is all right over there. He has contacted the underground basement of laboratory where the CP-5, 7, and 8 agents were kept as prisoners by York. Though they are still not freed by the Straw Hat crew for some obvious reasons, but they have been given food. The agents are gushing over food and munching it. Some are saying thanks, while others call them their enemies. The agents request the Straw Bats to free them, but they refuse to do that. They then request to at least shift them to a different place, because living close to such creatures give them creeps. They are basically talking about the seraphims who have been caught inside Lilith's sea stone bubbles. Usopp asks the agents that aren't the seraphims their allies. The agents exclaim that it is not like that. They are afraid that what if the seraphims get out of control again? Vegapunk exclaims that he can assure their safety as the bubble are made from the same bubble shield used by the Pacifista Mark III. Those bubbles are even resistant to bomb blast. It is made with same properties of the Sea Prism Stone, which makes them effective weapons against Devil Fruit users. The agents calls it amazing and exclaim that they considered it to be normal soap bubbles. The seraphims are frustrated at being caught inside the bubbles. S-Snake tells the CP agents that they don't need to worry about them since they haven't received any orders to eliminate them, and therefore they are of no value for them. The CP agents consider it a relief. Frankie tells S-Snake that they are grateful to her as she undid the petrification on them. Vegapunk exclaims that this is strange she did this because her programming did not include any sort of act like this. S-Snake remembers how Luffy told her to undo her powers on his comrades, as she is the only one who can save them. She agreed to undo it, and she displayed her affection towards Luffy, just like the real Boa Hancock. Jinbei calls her the perfect copy of Boa Hancock, as she looks down on everybody else except for Luffy. He calls it funny that the Seraphim based on actual Boa Hancock has the same emotions as she had. Vegapunk calls it interesting, and laments that these emotions are the pieces of information transferred through the lineage factor during the cloning process. Luffy thanks S-Snake once again. Atlas tells Vegapunk that although the system is working fine, but she is still unable to open the Frontier Dome. Vegapunk exclaims that they cannot escape from Punk Records until they disable the barrier. York calls their efforts useless as she locked everything with a password, and one worse news is that she didn't share the data with their brains, and now she is not willing to tell it either. Atlas is extremely annoyed with her. York calls the password and the world government her two armors that protect her. Stussy exclaims that they are surrounded from all sides. The fleet comprises of 100 ships and nearly 30,000 Marines on board. Vegapunk turns to Nami and asks her that is she the navigator of the crew? Nami affirms. She then gazes at the log pose and the compasses and exclaims that it is not pointing to a new destination yet, but she assumes they can follow the directions it recorded in Wano. She tells them that one of the compasses is pointing northeast from there. Vegapunk exclaims that it is where the Elbaf is. Luffy and Usopp are excited to hear that they are finally going to Elbaf, the island of giants that they have been dreaming to go even since. They both can be seen in their own world extremely elated to go there, while Stussy tells Lucci to stop staring at her. Vegapunk exclaims that it is good their ship is already on the Labophase stratum. But since the island is surrounded completely by a marine blockade, it is almost impossible for them to safely escape from the coast. Vegapunk tells them the whole plan that they need to follow. They first need to go northeast to the other side of the island. Fortunately, the Vega Force One is already stationed next to their ship. Vegapunk hopes that it will be able to carry them through the marine blockade, but a problem is that it can only fly within the field of Egghead, and it will fall down as soon as it leaves the air range of the island. Frankie exclaims that this is not a problem, and Thousand Sunny can take over just before Vega Force One completely leaves the airfield range. Frankie further adds that no one will be able to chase then after they fly 1 kilometer away from Punk Records. Vegapunk finds it surprising that Thousand Sunny is capable of flying 1 kilometer away. They then decide to go with this plan. Atlas calls it a well-devised plan, but she exclaims that somebody needs to disable the Frontier Dome before they could escape. York exclaims that they will not get the password from her. Vegapunk starts working on the terminal and exclaims that the final option is to hack the password and York should not underestimate the great Vegapunk. Vegapunk leaves the command of Vega Force One to Lilith. The plan to escape the Egghead Island has started in full swing. First, they need to move the ship to the other side of the Labophase. For this, Luffy, Bonnie, Lilith, and Frankie are rushing out OD there to do this. Lilith exclaims that they need to hurry as the barrier might open any time now, though disabling the barriers means they could escape, but it also makes them vulnerable to their enemies' attacks. While they are rushing, Lilith tells them that she had never left the island before. They start talking about the food that they are going to miss while Frankie tells them that they are not going on a picnic. Bonnie and Luffy have a sweet banter. Bonnie exclaims that she feels better now as she has given up on killing Vegapunk. They mock her crying from the previous night. It is then revealed that earlier Lucci was not talking to himself, but he actually was trying to contact someone through the Den Den Mushi. Rob Lucci has actually made contact with the government. But why is he so loyal to the government even after whatever happened is still a mystery? The government has come to KO what is happening inside of the dome and orders to relay this information to everyone at once. Saturn asks Kizaru that does he heard it. Kizaru exclaims that Straw Hat was talking arrogantly, believing that he has control over the whole situation and can deceive them. But the fact is that they are still cornered like rats. Saturn exclaims that as far as he knows, the Frontier Dome is a defense system that uses lasers. He asks Kizaru that can't he infiltrate it as he is a light human. Kizaru replies that it is possible for him, but the one Vegapunk that guarding the dome is his friend. Saturn tells him that he needs to ignore his friend. Kizaru replies that he cannot ignore a man who is determined to fight for his duty, as doing this will go against his ideals. Kizaru further mentions that starting with the assault now will cause Sentomaru to order the sea beast weapons and the 50 pacifistas under his command to sink their fleet. In this case, the casualties would be enormous. Saturn holds his head with his hand, calling the situation extremely complicated, and asks him about the location of the power plant. Kizaru tells him that Lucci is a cunning fellow, and he has already leaked all the information they need. All the marine ships are ready to sail for the battle. The vice admirals there give some important orders. The first one is to tell the Rokushiki users to be on standby as their assault will begin soon. Second is to free all CP0 agents from the pirates. The third thing is that the total bombardment units must remember that bomb blasts don't work on the pacifistas. They must aim for the Mecha Sea Beast weapons. Lilith and her group has reached near the Vega Force 1. Luffy exclaims that he is in awe of the Sky Island grounds, but Frankie reminds him to not forget their goal. They have arrived at the Thousand Sunny, and now they need to perform their task quickly. Kizaru, who has reached outside the Punk records, is preparing to infiltrate the dome. He uses his Yata no Kagami technique and transforms himself into a light human. Therefore, he transports himself on the island with the speed of light by crossing past all the sea beasts. But Sentomaru was already aware of him showing up there, and therefore he quickly orders the pacifista units to exterminate all the enemies. Kizaru tells Sentomaru to prepare for the battle, while Sentomaru exclaims that his defense is the strongest in the world. A fight kicks in between Sentomaru and Kizaru. Luffy, who is at the lava phase stratum, suddenly sees light coming from below and concludes that someone extremely strong has arrived.